It's a cool car program. So we're going to hear from a cool car owner. Wayne Smith, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Hello, Bobby. It's good to talk with you.
It's my pleasure, sir. Tell us about your cool car.
Well, I wouldn't call it cool because I still have an awful hate for this.
Oh.
But you have a picture, I understand, of that 47 Chrysler Windsor. And I had one, had a Spitfire 6 engine in it with a fluid transmission. And one thing I recall about that was when the light would turn green, I could smash that thing to the floorboard, light up a cigarette, and finally get out of there before it turned yellow. Anyway, I remember how good the metal was on everything because I was working around it one day, and I dropped the ball peen hammer, hit the fender, and you couldn't even tell where it hit the fender. There's not a dent on the thing.
I wonder what the bumpers weighed on that automobile.
Well, they're probably about 300 pounds apiece, I guess. But that car was such a dog. It just was awful. And one thing I remember is I could never drive more than 20 miles without the engine heating up, and I never, ever did solve that problem. It just always continued to overheat, and although the engine would overheat, I could never get the inside of the car heated up in the wintertime. It would stay relatively cool, and the windows would fog up because it was one of those recirculating heaters. It was that awful tan color that nauseates me even when I see it today.
So you just love Chryslers, don't you?
Well, I never did buy one. So anyway, I decided when the day comes that I can really buy a nice car, and it took many, many years. I finally bought a Cadillac STS, so I really knew what power was and everything. And I recall one day a couple years ago or so, you talked about keeping the rings cleared on those STSs.
Yes.
So I told my wife that Bobby Likis says you should do this, and I would accelerate, out onto the lanes and run that baby up to about 110, 120, and then let her drop off. Boy, I still like to do that. But that Chrysler with that fluid drive was just probably the worst thing that was ever developed by an American car company.
Yeah, I think it's the opposite. I think maybe that was where the first, and a catalytic converter, a torque converter has stall speed, and so it obviously had this fluid drive, which is what all automatic transmissions have, and they have stall speeds, and most of those are around, 1,500, 1,200 RPM, and then if a race cars, you can have, stall speeds that are up to 3,000 RPM. So one might say, Wayne, that the original racing torque converter that allowed the racing engine to reach 5,000 RPM before launching the car was originally invented for the 47 Chrysler, except it was not that way. And we do at Facebook.com/Bobby Likis, Likis. Then we do have a 47 Chrysler Windsor, and I really appreciate you reaching out and sharing your love-hate story. So you never bought a Chrysler?
No, I could never bring myself to do it, Bobby. And although I've been tempted, they made some nice-looking automobiles, and there were good reports on them, but I just could never quite go back to that. That vacuum cleaner front end they had on that thing always stuck in my mind, and I just thought it was awful.
So does that mean if one ever had a bad date, you never would try again?
Hey, I can't talk about that.
Hey, thanks, my friend, for calling. Where do you live, by the way?
Here in Huntsville, Alabama. And I recall that you were at Athens.
Actually, we did. We did a remote broadcast from Athens there, and that's a really big part. I want to go into it, and I forget his last name now, but WVNN.
Donovan.
Bob Donovan. Donovan. He was Mr. Radio of the Southeast, especially for the state of Alabama, and hats off to him and his son now. Wayne, thank you so much for calling in today.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure talking with you.
It's my
Bobby.
pleasure.